And so let me again thank you all. Thank you all for coming. My name is Carolyn Livingston. I am the Vice President of Student Life and Dean of Students here at Carleton, and certainly want to welcome all of you for spending your Friday evening or maybe afternoon with me. I can imagine there are a lot of other things that you probably wanted to do, and but I'm happy that you are. I'm happy that you're here with me. I wanted to spend uh, really the next hour sharing with you some information that you probably may know already, but also using this opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. Some of you have sent some questions along already, and then I will happily take some questions from you as well. And I think we can use the chat feature a little bit later on, and we will get in as many of um, these questions as possible. I'll share with you as well that I did speak with students yesterday and had a very similar conversation with them as well. We'll spend some time tomorrow talking with students as well. And I know it's a Labor Day weekend for everyone, at least here in the States. And so again, with extra gratitude for spending some time with me on Labor Day weekend. Particularly, I know some of you are already on your travels to Northfield as well. So all of you would have received the memo that I shared with students. Ooh, the memo that I shared with students last week. I forwarded that information to you. Thanks to Katie Bird and others for distributing that on my behalf. And I want to just talk with you really about sort of where I think we are in this process. Yeah, if people can mute, I think there's some static. And so if you can please mute, that would be really helpful. And if you cannot hear me, please let me know. Please let me know as well. I want to share again. I want to share with you some highlights from the memo that I sent last week, but also to share with you where I think we are headed into the term, and then really just offer you an opportunity to again ask any questions. Happy to do this again if you feel as if it is necessary to chat with you, and then we'll have some opportunities throughout the year as well to talk with each other. So I'll be very frank and candid. This is not a conversation I thought I would have again to talk about COVID. After last spring, I had a silent dance party and thought we were done with COVID, but certainly here we are again, but I think this fall is going to be a little bit different, actually a lot different, and I think we are well positioned to be able to respond to the changes that we're seeing with the Delta variant. I think that one of the reasons, and not even a think, but one of the reasons I believe that we are very well positioned is a decision that we made last spring, which was to require the vaccination for our community, and that was for faculty, that was for faculty, staff, and students as well. And so we are near fully vaccinated campus, that has positioned us really well going into the term. So a couple of quick things, and then this is again really a highlight of about the memo. Some of you already have students here, and the students that you already have here might be our athletes who returned about 2 weeks ago. You may also have peer leaders, our residential advisors returned this week, along with other peer leaders as well. So before we even get to New Student Week next week, half of our student body will have already returned. So it's a little bit different than what happened last year. This year it's a whole lot more staggered. Last year everybody came at the same time. The students who are already here have been COVID tested, and then they will also participate in the 2 rounds of baseline testing again, beginning next Tuesday, and that also includes our faculty and staff. And so again, I think that we are in a very, very strong position compared to where we were this time last year. Your student today will have received information on how to sign up for that baseline testing. We said to them that we would get it out to them on Friday for them to sign up for testing. They got it about maybe a little bit over an hour ago, hour and a half for them to sign up for baseline testing. And for the most part, first year students will sign up for baseline testing next Thursday. And then it sort of goes to upperclassmen. Our students who are already here will fit in as well, and our international students as well. So your student will have received an email from me indicating where they can do the baseline testing. Part of the information that you received as well would have talked about this whole notion of how do we return to the residential liberal arts campus that we are and that we pride ourselves on. Last year, for particularly our first year parents, we did 3 terms of in-person learning. We did have a contingent of folks who did remote. There was classes that were offered remote as well, but we have returned to in-person learning for all of our classes, and we think that is appropriate, particularly with the testing, the extremely high vaccination rate amongst our community. And also the masking as well. Now, some of you have asked about, and this is one of the questions ahead of time, which is how long are we going to mask on campus, particularly if everyone is fully vaccinated? And what we're prepared to say at this point is, let us see where we are with the baseline test. And then we will reevaluate our metrics and see where we are to see if it's okay that we unmask in our community. One of the things that we really provided for the community and that will also be visible to you as parents and families is a dashboard. And this dashboard will have a list of several indicators, including our weekly one baseline test. It will also include things like how many of our students are testing in other in other venues as well. How many of our students are in our quarantine indoor isolation housing? We will put all of those things online, and we will release our dashboard. I typically also like to communicate with you weekly during the term as well about our numbers, point you to the dashboard, and also share additional information as well. And I will commit to continuing to do that as long as there's information to share. I just don't want to certainly send you emails to just be sending you emails. As a reminder, the test that we are using for baseline is PCR, and so we will continue to use that. The test that we are using for our students who are early arrived, who are early arrivals, we use Phonex or antigen tests for those students, and we have set aside again both quarantine and isolation housing with dedicated staff to be able to serve those students who are in both quarantine and isolation. A couple of questions that I will address as well that you sent along, and particularly questions that your students asked yesterday related to, if we test 72 hours in advance, do we need to test again upon arrival? Absolutely. We have asked you, and we have asked your students to test 72 hours prior to arrival to see if there are any positive cases. And in that case, we would say, stay in place until your isolation period is up. If you're international and you test positive, we can certainly understand that maybe a little bit harder for you to stay in place, but we will certainly remedy that once you get into our isolation housing. And the 72 hours, particularly for some of you who are starting to trek this way on Saturday and or over the weekend, if you can get it 72 hours right before you come or 72 hours when you leave, that's fine. Anytime before you arrive. I think, and this is where maybe the state of Minnesota is spoiling us a little bit, but there's a lot of availability for COVID testing in the state. If you are flying into the airport, they do bulk testing, and you get your results within 12 hours. And so that is available for you throughout the state of Minnesota. If you're driving, as soon as you cross over to the border, you'll be able to get some testing, and it is at no cost to you. So again, either PCR and or a rapid test is going to be fine with us for that 72 hours, as long as you kind of give us something. And we only want to know if it's positive, because that has implications for us being able to take you out or take your student out of future testing for about 90 days. And so think about that when it comes to testing. Let me just look at the chat really quick to see if you have any questions about testing or anything that I've addressed already. Let's see here. Yeah, Lisa, the metrics are going to be available. We'll put those online. Hoping to put those metrics online next week. And a part of those metrics and a part of those indicators will in essence say, hey, if we're less than 2%, then we will unmask. If we're at 5% or higher, we're going to mask, but we may do a week of surveillance testing, something of that sort. So you'll be able to see that when we release that towards the end of next week. Okay, let's see here. Where do students stay in isolation? I'll go ahead and cover that. So that's online. I mean, I'm sorry, that's on campus. We have set aside, Deborah, some spaces on campus specifically for quarantine and/or isolation space. And just so you know, for close contacts of those folks who are vaccinated, it doesn't require them to be quarantined. For close contacts of those who are positive, and we're really talking the breakthrough cases, we will have testing available for them, tested on site to be able to do that. Yep, 72 hours, Gretchen, before move-in. What ER? So there's one hospital in Northfield, which is Northfield Hospital, and that is where all of our students go if there are significant emergencies, and they are certainly prepared to be able to help with any of our students. I will say that I think we had maybe two or three students who ended up having to go to Northfield Hospital due to symptoms last year, but Northfield Hospital, turned them around and said, "You're actually fine," and offered them to help get back to campus. And so we have a good relationship with Northfield Hospital, and we'll continue to leverage that relationship. If students are in quarantine or isolation, our class deans, we have 3 class deans, 3 of my class deans will work with them to ensure they get their work done. And just so you know, and this is a little bit of a change from last year. Last year we did not allow parents and families to enter the residential space last year, or pretty much spaces on campus. But we will do that. We will do that for move-in, and also various times throughout the year. The only thing that we ask is that you mask up while you are inside the residence halls or inside any of our or any of our buildings. And so, but we look forward for you, particularly our returning parents, for you to actually look inside of a residence hall, something that you did not get the opportunity to look inside last year. So we look forward to for you to be able to do that. Let me just look through another couple of quick questions, and then I will go through other pieces here. Yeah, if you are, Lisa, you had another question about, will asymptomatic vaccinated students and or exposed vaccinated students be required to isolate? Only if they test positive will folks be required to isolate. Just a close contact, you're gonna we're just gonna test you, but we are not going to require you to go into any sort of quarantine or any isolation. And when you do move in, we do not expect parents to test. We feel as if you're going to spend hopefully not a significant amount of time in the residence halls. We do ask you to mask when you are inside of all of our buildings. We certainly will ask you to mask. And Monica, your question, I think about, we certainly know that COVID is unavoidable. And so nothing that we will say as Carleton will include, we got to stop COVID. COVID is going to be on our campus. And it's our responsibility to mitigate the virus, to try to reduce any spread on campus, and also to continue our residential living learning experience. And so we are certainly um, uh, um, not under any illusion that we won't have COVID on campus. We will again do our best, which is why we're asking until we can get our until we can get know where we are as far as baseline. And then again, Monica, once we get to the you'll see the dashboard online next week, and you'll see what sort of restrictions a certain percentage will trigger on campus. And again, Scott, no restrictions as far as or testing that's going to be required for students. Gretchen, I'll go ahead and answer your question regarding isolation housing. What does it look like? And so isolation housing, some of them are singles, some of them are doubles. Meals are delivered. Carrie Schroyer is what we call our QI coordinator, served in that role last year, and will continue to serve in that role this year. She delivers, and her team will deliver all items to students who are in QI, and that includes meals. They have a choice of what meals, so they'll get a menu ahead of time, and then the menu, of course, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then there will also include some snacks as well. Carrie does a really good job of asking what those additional things that will make folks feel good about being in QI, if you can feel good about being in QI. And so Carrie will ask about, if you drink coffee or tea, can she bring you some? There's some times where she's ordered Chipotle, or she's ordered pizza for students as well. Unfortunately, we had some students in quarantine and isolation over Thanksgiving last year, and Carrie and I served Thanksgiving dinner to the students that were there. So we'll make sure that the students are fed. We ask you to kind of keep in contact with them. Our staff will check in on them. Someone will check in on them just about every day from someone in our student health and counseling, checking in on them to their class dean, checking on for their classes, and also if they need any more materials for studying. And so they'll get checked on a good bit. I will just say that it's a challenging environment, primarily because you kind of see and hear everything that's going on around you, but you're in this space for a defined amount of time. So that's why we want to check in on folks, make sure they're okay, and also let us know if we can assist. If your student goes into quarantine and/or isolation, we will let you know. You are a part of that notification process, and so you will hear from one of my class deans, and they will talk you through any questions and/or concerns that you might have. And so I hope that really describes the quarantine and isolation housing process for you, and then let me know if you have any additional questions. What percentage of the population is fully vaccinated? I'd say about 99.5%. And you can kind of do the math. You can do the math on what percentage of folks are not. You're talking about 1870 students, and then you're talking about overall a couple of hundred faculty, and then maybe about 600 or so, or about I'd say 400 or 500 or so staff. So about 99.5%. So it's a really good rate. And then Lori, yeah, we're going to require students to mask um, um, in the dorm buildings, particularly as we are within these first couple of weeks as the school is beginning. Let me also mention. Well, I'll take Peter's question first to say that we do accept the results for home testing kits. If you have access to that, then please go ahead and take one of those. And before I get to other questions, let me just also say that a part of the I'd say return to normal, and we have to really just kind of define and sort of interrogate this idea of normal. We will we will begin the whole notion of having spectators at our athletic events. We will also welcome parents and families to athletic events. Our sports teams are already in competition. All of our teams have done scrimmages and/or friendly competitions with other schools. Our men's soccer team just left Washington State, and there's some regular and frequent testing of our athletes just because of their contact with their close contacts with other people. And so typically our athletes the day before competition will test as well. And so we do have some height measures as far as those that are much more in frequent contact with others. And so and we will keep that up as long as people are in competition with each other. Let me go back to Jennifer's question. If there's no online option, how are classes being handled? We'll handle them, Jennifer, prior to this COVID period. We handle it pretty well, I think. What we do, we have students who have concussions or may have had mono, may have had a death in the family and needed or sickness in the family that needed to go for a couple of weeks. And so we will continue to have those. It might involve for those 10 or 14 days that a student might be in quarantine and/or isolation, having note takers to bring notes from a class. It might involve Zooming or conferencing with a prof. It might involve some adjustments to the syllabus, but we're pretty pro when it comes to this, and so we will ensure that your student doesn't feel that they're missing because of the quarantine and/or isolation period, and so we'll continue to adjust those. Let's see here. What percentage of the population tested positive last year? Fiona, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I don't know if we have. I don't know if we have disabled the dashboard from last year, but I do know that we had some pretty low numbers. We went for about I want to say 6 to 8 weeks without any positive cases on campus, and then we had a sprinkle of one here, two here. I'll say the part of the reason for our one here, another over here, really had to do with when our students went off campus and they spent the weekend with their family in a cabin and ended up testing positive there, or when someone decided that they were going to spend a weekend with their partner or a friend or something of that sort, they tested positive. So it never generated really from being on campus, but it was always the off-campus piece that generated positivity. One of the indicators that we will continue to monitor is the positivity rate in Rice County, particularly in Northfield, and also in the surrounding area. So we will go from here in Rice County all the way to the Minneapolis Twin Cities area on one end, and then we will go to the towards Rochester on the other end to monitor rates, and that will let us know if we need to make any adjustments, particularly if we need to say to students, hey, not a good idea to go downtown right now. Not a good idea to go to the cities, or be extra vigilant when you go to these particular areas, given the positivity rate. We pay really particular attention as well to K through 12 in the area too, because we know that has an impact on parents and families as well. And just so you know, all of our schools here in Northfield have mask mandates, and Northfield does a really good job of vaccination rates as well. And so I think that, but those are just some indicators that we will pay particular attention to. But Fiona, if I can find a number for you for our positivity rates next week, or take a picture of that dashboard from last year, I'm happy to be able to do that. Okay. When will we make a decision about family weekend relating to the situation with COVID? That is a great question for Katie Bird, who is our director of family engagement. And so I'm not exactly sure what is on the parent and family website relating to family weekend. If we, and I haven't heard anything about us not doing it, because I think I got an invitation to do something there. And so if anything changes, I'm pretty sure Katie will reach out directly to you as parents and families. There may be some mitigation strategies that we need to think about, in the sense of, we usually let parents and families, attend classes as many as they want. We may decide that may not be a good idea for this particular year. So we will be able to share more as we get a little bit closer to that day and time. And I've just been sent the note to say that the dashboard from last year is up. And so if you go to COVID at Carleton, you'll be able to find that. You'll be able to find that dashboard from last year. And so, Lydia, you asked a question about where we'll update the guidelines about masking. We have a really nice COVID FAQ site that's online that you'll be able to take a look at. I'm going to pull it up really quick and put it in the chat. Everything that you ever wanted to know about COVID and Carleton and what we're doing is going to be contained in that. And so let me put it here, and you will be able to take a look at the FAQ. Anything that we need to change is going to be there. Also in my messaging to you as well. I'll put any changes in any sort of practices or any sort of policies. I will share that with you on a weekly basis. Okay. And again, once we get to 2 weeks, and we get to that baseline, we will share another communication with the campus about any changes there may need to be as far as masking, and any other mitigation strategies that we may need to leverage. One of the pieces that many folks have asked is what's the difference between last year and this year? And again, I go back to the with a fully vaccinated campus. There are a lot of differences. Our dining halls will return pre-COVID. Folks can still do takeout, but we will bring back the buffet experience for our students. We'll have a more expanded menu than we did last year, that's an extra benefit. We are not right now planning on doing the traditional notion of surveillance testing. That is that weekly 600 random folks who did surveillance testing last year. We are not planning on doing that right now. It's a lever that we have that we can use if we need it, but we don't plan on doing that. We also we can do a lever of not having visitors on campus as well. So we have a lot of levers, I think, at our disposal, but just the one that we're using right now is the baseline test, and also is the masking on campus. Let's see here, Monica. I think I addressed that question for you about will parents be able to attend classes Friday morning. We may. Again, we'll wait on some guidance here on that. That one may be a little bit challenging because we just want to be thoughtful about who can be within those classes. And so once we have some updates there, I am happy. And actually, Katie Berg is going to be the person that will share some information with you when it comes to that. Some of you have also asked, particularly our parents of sophomores and juniors and seniors, what about off-campus studies programs? And Helena Kaufman and Naomi Ziegler, who are in that area, are very good about communicating information. We have, I think, 3 Carleton sponsored programs that are headed out in the fall, and there's a full list of Carleton programs for winter term, and so that information is going to be available online. I will say that we're probably a little bit oversubscribed for winter term OCS, but we'll be able to handle that pretty well. Lisa, I think you may have put in, is it 2%, including you're talking our positivity rate from last year? Is that, I think that's what you put in there, of the 2% students, faculty, and staff, really low numbers when it comes to our positivity rate last year. Here are a couple of other things couple of other pieces to think about, particularly as we get into to COVID. Again, we may make some adjustments regarding singing and music. What those adjustments might be, those are still high risk areas for us, and so there may be some of those musical concerts that might be outside, or we might require masking for musical concerts throughout the beyond when we beyond when we release that masking mandate. And so, but we'll let you know more as we get into the school year. I'll pause a little bit. I'm going to take a sip of water, and then I'll ask you to put additional questions and or comments into the chat if you want me to respond. All right. So great question, Jennifer. We just met with our colleagues at St. Olaf yesterday. We meet with our colleagues at St. Olaf every other week to coordinate and just really inform each other of how we are addressing COVID on our campuses. Both of us use the same epidemiologist to garner that public health public health experience. And so, but we meet to talk about a lot of events. But again, every 2 weeks is what we meet with Carleton and St. Olaf. Their calendar is a little bit different than ours. They start classes earlier. They don't have the 6-week winter break that we do, but they do have a J term is what they call it. So we learn a lot from them going first, and we really learn a whole lot from other schools in the country going first as well. And then based upon what we observe from other places, we're able to make some adjustments on our end. I will say that I'm pretty much in contact with a lot of our peers at other institutions like Carleton, where we talk probably email, certainly weekly, but more targeted or more intentional discussions about once a month. We have conversations via Zoom or Google Hangout. We will have some very intentional conversations with that. Let's see. Heather, great question. Will there be some activities for returning sophomores that mirror? Yes, there will be. So last year's class did not do a couple of things. Last year's class did not do the Frisbee toss. Last year's class missed out on some of the more traditional new student week activities. And so what we are planning to do is actually a Frisbee toss for our sophomore students. And we also plan to have a sophomore class dinner on the fall spot. Now, I don't think they know this yet, but we are planning that. It's not a secret, but I don't think we have shared that with them yet. One of the things that we also know is that we have some sophomores who did not come to campus at all last year. And so those sophomores who did not come to campus last year, we have invited them to attend New Student Week activities beginning next week. And I think it was maybe about 24 students who did not, first year students who did not come to campus at all last year. We will work with them. One thing that we launched last year was this first year student success series. And it was a way to build community for first year students in this world of COVID. That whole success series was good. And so we're going to replicate a success series for every class for all of our students, first year, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It'll look different. So there were things like virtual bingo, trivia night. There were sessions from the Career Center. There were sessions on advising and other type of events. So we're going to do that for every class of students at Carleton going forward. we're still working on that. We're working on that schedule right now. And then one of the pieces, there are two pieces that we're going to make sure that is included in every in the success series for all students relating to financial literacy, but also diversity and inclusion as well. Our students will have Midwinter Ball, they will have spring concert, all of these things this year. All of those traditional activities again will return to will return to will return. And so but again, we started the success series again, thought it would be helpful. And because it was so good and popular amongst our student body, we'll keep going with that. Let's see, St. Olaf students travel to Carleton for parties. How would that affect transmission? Well, I think it goes both ways. I think our students travel there and St. Olaf students travel here. They also have maybe not as high numbers as we do, but their numbers are pretty respectable in the sense of COVID. What we say to all of our visitors is that we welcome you mass in a masked environment, and so we hope that there won't be a transmission between the campuses or between visitors. And we'll continue to just be mindful and thoughtful about that. And Lisa, yeah, everything, all the clubs can meet in person again. All the clubs, all CSA, our student government will be meeting again. Our athletes practice, all of those things we are continuing to do. We're continuing to do in person. And so they do not have to shift to Zoom for any of those activities. I think that there are some where students are saying, hey, let's just keep doing Zoom on some things, and I think that's fine. But that is not the standard for what we for why we're bringing back our students and why we continue to have this residential living, learning, liberal arts environment. So clubs and everything else will return to normal. And then, yeah, Meredith, we will. So we will provide flu shots to students in the fall. That flu shot, that clinic is in October. And so we will, and that's also something that we've mandated as well. And so the flu shot is in October. This is also where we provide flu shots for not only Carleton students, but faculty and staff, and also family members of our students, of our faculty staff as well. Yeah, I think booster vaccines, we have a really great partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health and also the Rice County Department of Health. And so we hope that we'll continue to be a vaccination spot. We were able to distribute vaccines on campus last year, and also provide vaccines for community folks as well. And so if when that time comes for the booster vaccine, I'm confident that we can we'll be able to do that. I think the science is dynamic here, in the sense of, is it 6 months, is it 8 months, is it annually, whatever the case may be. And so we will we'll see how that we will see how that we'll see how that works. Let's see here. If your student already has their flu shot, there's going to be a note that's a part of their student health and counseling checklist, where they will be able to upload that they've already that they have already taken the flu shot. So they just need to be able to do that. And Lisa, as far as will we require the flu shot, we still need some of this. I'm sorry, not the flu shot, but the booster. We'll still need some discussion around that, particularly as so much communication varies around that. So a little bit more later there. And then a question regarding a site on campus for students who want to do testing. So it's a great question because we just talked about the feasibility of sort of setting up a space beyond our student health and counseling to do that. Stay tuned for some information, but we think we're headed the direction of if you're close contact, go here for testing. If you are symptomatic, you certainly go here in student health and counseling for testing. So we think we'll be able to meet on campus needs for students who want to do testing. We understand there's probably some anxiety on the front end, but what we don't want is students coming in to test every week. We want to be really thoughtful about that. Let's see, and I want to make sure. I think it's Leanne. If I got that right, if I messed it up, I'm really sorry for doing so. And then Mary, your question. No, we're not going to ask you for your vaccination card. And while you're at Carleton, just hold tight. We'll have a record of that already because that was submitted as a part of what we asked for, and so we have a copy of it. We're happy to produce it in case you need it. There are a lot of places, particularly here in New York or in California and other areas where you have to be vaccinated in order to enter. We're not in that case. We're not that in Rice County, or I'm not hearing there's any sort of pattern about that in the cities, in the Twin Cities at all. And so no need. It's a precious document, and I put it in a really safe place. And if the student needs it for any reason, we can certainly reprint it for your student. So I'm going to take another sip of water, and then I'm going to. We got about a little less than 5 minutes, and then I will ask you to put any sort of remaining questions in the chat feature, and I'm happy to respond. All right, so I don't see any additional questions. What I will say is that, and what I will say throughout the year is continue to give us some grace in how we are managing during this COVID period. We will continue to work towards providing the safe residential living learning community, this environment. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to let us know. Katie Berg is always going to be a resource for you as parents and family members. And there may be a question that you pitch to her, we'll pitch back with each other. And that is fine as well. But continue to be patient with us as we navigate something that's really unprecedented for us. Thanks for being great partners as parents and family members. And if you get the chance to come if you get the chance to come to family weekend, would certainly encourage you to do so. And I'll be able to see you there. Let's see here. Oh, let me answer Monica's question really quick. This is going to be, and Monica and Lydia, this is being recorded, and we're going to put it on the parent and family webpage for you to for you to view. I hope you don't have to view the whole thing over again. But it will be available for those who have not been able to attend. Outside events for New Student Week is going to be the welcome event on Thursday at a little bit after 4. The parent and family reception is going to be outside as well, and then the welcome tent is going to be outside too, and then everything else is going to be inside in our recreation in our rec center. Okay. Well, again, it's been a pleasure, and feel free to reach out for anything that you need, and it'll be nice to see your student on campus this term. And this is exactly, none of our buildings should be vacant, and so this is why we do what we do, and just really again appreciate your partnership. Thank you so much.